Hi, and welcome into Real Conversations. I am Thomas Manning here with the Real to Real Film Festival in Kings Mountain, North Carolina. Today, I'm so glad to be joined by Morgan Holub, the director of a animated short film, Lost in Place. And thank you so much, Morgan, for joining me today,
Thank you for having me.
of course. And I think to start things out, we can just get you to give a little background on your filmmaking and animation career and any kind of context you want to provide there. Feel free to go ahead.
Okay, well, I got into animation when I was in high school. I did a camp down at the Savannah College of Art and Design and started with 2D animation and kind of just got really interested in the process. So then I was looking at colleges and I decided I wanted to do 3D instead of 2D. So I did 3D at the Pratt Institute, and Lost in Place is my senior capstone film. Um, so I worked on it for a year and a half with help from my advisor and my classmates, and had a wonderful final product.
Oh, definitely, you did. And I think the first thing that I noticed in this short was the central core relationship between the little girl and her robot. It reminded me very much of someone and their pet, like a dog or a cat or something.
Yes.
Is there any sort of personal experience you took from your own life and applied when you started developing this relationship?
Well, I thought a lot about my dog. I've had a dog for, I don't know, my parents got her when I was at school, and then I kind of was introduced to her when I was coming home for the summer, and she's insane. She's like 4 years old now, and she's a pit bull black lab mix, and she's the cutest, and she's very high energy, and so the character was kind of based off of her a little bit. But I think the idea for the central part of the story being their main relationship definitely comes from my love of the Star Wars films, and all of the robots in those films are always like such important little characters, and they're kind of side characters and kind of not. And BB-8 has always been my favorite, so I just loved kind of taking that high energy little character and making them a central part of the film, and then giving them like the intense friendship slash relationship with the other main character, and just kind of building off of that.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'm a massive Star Wars fan myself, and BB-8, the character design, one of my favorite like droid designs in all of Star Wars, and I really could see that influence in the character you developed in your film. So excellent job there.
Thank you.
And just I was really impressed by the animation, just from a general perspective. There was so much detail, and there were different environments and different styles of animation that you had to apply. Of course, you had inside this old spaceship, and then you had some beautiful landscapes toward the end of the film with like these beautiful red grass fields. So, how long did it take you to have these images in your head and then apply them and see them finally come to fruition?
Well, the final landscape scene and environment was actually the first thing that I knew that I wanted to have. I'd always had like these images in my head of like a girl sitting on the edge of a cliff, and I wanted to incorporate that somehow. And then the color scheme kind of came about later. Originally, I wanted to make the grass that's in the planet environment bioluminescent, but that would have been insane and taken just way too long to actually render out. So I kind of went with making it kind of more transparent, looking like glass, very reflective, and kind of worked backwards from there, because I definitely designed how I wanted the grass to be first, and then kind of worked with the color scheme and the water and the sun and everything backwards from there. And then the inside of the spaceship design, um, I mean, environmental design is kind of one of my favorite things. So I had a lot of fun just like adding the little details into the textures and putting in the different objects that I thought a 13-year-old kid would have on their spaceship. Like there's dirty dishes everywhere, and there's just lots of little drawings pinned up and cracks in the walls and just stuff kind of everywhere, because, you know, teenagers don't want to clean up after themselves. And it kind of compounds when they're just in an environment where they're all by themselves. So I liked getting that feeling across in my environments.
Definitely. And what you did with the virtual camera movement throughout this piece, that's always impressed me how animators can make it look like there's a real camera moving around within this virtual setting. So, what does that process kind of look like behind the scenes for you?
Um, it's a little complicated in my opinion, just trying to get the camera to look more natural than like it's completely digital. But I had a lot of help from my advisor, Claudia, on making sure the camera movements were kind of zooming in and zooming out at the appropriate times, and then moving around in a fluid motion. And then I added like some camera shakes in a few places because you wanted to get the feeling that it was more like somebody was holding the camera, and to get it the natural feel to it than you were just moving it back and forth on an axis. So
Definitely. Yeah. And so what does it mean to you to have the opportunity of film festivals to distribute your work to a wider audience than probably would have access to it otherwise?
I think film festivals are really important. This is, I think, my 8th or ninth one that I've been accepted into this year. And it's just been really exciting to see the feedback that's come from some of them, and that people actually are getting to watch my film. The only one I was able to go to in person was in DC, and it was really cool to be able to sit with the audience and like watch people watch my film, because you don't really get that when you're just doing something as a class project, because that's kind of what it is in a sense. Is it's my senior capstone, but it was just a class project. So the only people that saw it for the longest time were the like 7 other kids in my class and my teacher. So it's really cool to be able to have that exposure and to watch people's reactions to my work.
Yeah. And so considering this was your senior capstone project, I assume it was probably one of your most complicated projects you've done yet.
Yes,
So,
100%. Yeah.
so what are you going to try to take from this and build upon for your next project?
Well, I'm starting grad school in the fall at the Savannah College of Art and Design, and I'm continuing to pursue animation. So definitely this project will help with building my skills and kind of the storytelling aspect. So I've done something that's a longer project, and now I can build onto it and make it maybe a little more complicated, maybe make the story a little more complex. And I've kind of helped me discover which parts of the process I like the most. Like I like the environment design and the character design and kind of building off of all of that. And then, I mean, animating is fun, but it's not my favorite by far. So,
And is there anything else you want to share that maybe I didn't touch upon? Just anything regarding the production of the film or anything you want the audience to take away from this?
regarding the production, I think the coolest part that I had the most fun with was working on the texturing, because it's textured using the Arnold Toon shader, so it looks like flatter color than in the 3D environment, which I just had a lot of fun experimenting with. It's not something that you see a lot in 3D animation, so it was a really cool process to kind of learn and get familiar with, and then be able to implement in a way that I was happy about. And then to take away from it, I guess animation and the project that you work on like that is just, it's so all consuming and everything that it's just kind of weird now to be done with it and still have people interested in seeing it. Um, but then it's definitely like a process that you never feel like it's complete. So even when like I turned my film in, I still felt like there was stuff that I needed to work on. So the accepting of the fact that it's done, it's a final product, and that it's now out in the world for people to see is just really cool. And not having to like go back every week and continue tweaking things, because it's not a class project anymore. It's a final film. Yeah, I think that's so.
Awesome. And if people want to keep up with your work through, whether it be through social media or maybe a website you have, where can people find you?
So I have a website. It's morganholub.com. My last name Holub, and then on Instagram I'm at moholub, and those are the 2 places where I post most of my work.
Awesome. Well, Morgan, thank you again so much for joining us with Real
Yeah, thank you.
Conversations. We're really glad to have you. And
Yes, thank you.
yeah, as once again, Thomas Manning with Real Conversations with Morgan Holub, the director of the animated short Lost in Place. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you guys next time.